Birthdays in our house were always a big deal. For my sister, Camille. From the age of 5, she got balloon arches, ponies, and custom cakes from celebrity bakers. Me? I got hugs. Maybe a cupcake if I was lucky. But I kept smiling, convincing myself that love wasn't measured in presents. That belief shattered completely on my 25th birthday. The same day, Camille turned 23. We'd always had a shared birthday party, even though I secretly wished for something separate, something just for me. But this year, my parents promised it would be different. "You're both adults now," my mom had said. "We'll make it special. Equally special." I should have known better. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. That morning, Camille walked down the stairs in a silk robe, fake surprised when she saw a shiny ribbon-wrapped box in the driveway. A brand-new, custom-painted Audi convertible gleamed under the sun. Our neighbors clapped, my parents beamed. My dad raised a toast with orange juice, shouting, "To Camille, the star of our lives." I waited. Maybe they were saving the surprise for last. Maybe mine was around the corner. Mom turned to me, finally, and handed me a small rectangular package. I unwrapped it. Inside was a pair of gray socks, clearance tags still attached. I forced a laugh. Is this a joke?" Dad chuckled. "You always complain about cold feet, remember?" Camille burst into laughter, wiping tears from her eyes. "Maybe next year she'll get matching gloves." But the worst part? Everyone laughed with her. My mother, my cousins, even my Uncle Roger, who used to slip me candy under the table when I was little. I felt like I was shrinking, vanishing, while Camille got swept into her new car for a photo shoot like she was some kind of influencer princess. Later, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. Mom said, "She doesn't have the spark Camille has. Always too serious, too average." And my dad replied, "Let's just hope she marries well." That night, I cried on the floor of my room, not because I didn't get a car, but because I finally realized I was never the daughter they wanted. I was just a placeholder, a footnote in Camille's perfect fairy tale. But I wasn't going to stay the side character. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would become someone they couldn't ignore, someone they would never laugh at again. They gave me socks, but I was going to wrap their arrogance in silk and make them watch as I rose without their help. The birthday may have ended in humiliation, but the real celebration hadn't even begun yet. I didn't speak to my parents for 3 months after that birthday, not out of rage, but out of clarity. Sometimes the silence you give people is louder than the words you'd scream. I moved out of the house that week, taking only my laptop, a suitcase, and the socks, those miserable socks that had now become my reminder. Every time I saw them, I didn't feel weak, I felt fire. I moved into a cramped studio apartment above a bakery. The ceiling leaked in the rain. The radiator groaned like an old man with a grudge, but it was mine. I worked 3 jobs, barista in the morning, virtual assistant by day, and freelance writing at night. I slept 4 hours a night, ate noodles 5 days a week, but I was building something quietly while the world slept on me. During those sleepless nights, I wrote stories, blogs, business proposals, and one night a short article I wrote on workplace burnout went viral. I was offered a weekly column. That column turned into a self-help blog, and that blog became a platform for young women like me, overlooked daughters, underestimated sisters, invisible workers, to find their voice. It snowballed. By the time Camille posted her 1-year anniversary with the Audi video with sparkly emojis and empty quotes, I was sitting in the corner booth of a business lounge, finalizing my brand's first licensing deal. I had turned my pain into power and power into profit. But I kept everything low-key. I didn't post flashy things. I didn't announce a thing to my parents. To them, I was still that quiet one, which is exactly how I wanted it. Until one day, I got a wedding invite in the mail. Camille was getting married. Of course, it was lavish. A vineyard estate, black tie, drone footage scheduled, champagne tower included. I wasn't surprised when my parents called, not to ask if I was coming, but to remind me of the gift expectations. My father casually said, "I know money's tight, but maybe a nice watch." Camille deserves something elegant. I smiled. Don't worry, I've got something in mind. The weeks leading up to the wedding, I kept silent, but I was working. Not just on a gift, but on the perfect entrance. I rented the limo quietly, under a company name. I arranged for it to arrive fashionably late, and I hired a luxury dessert chef. Yes, the same one my parents used to joke I couldn't afford, to deliver one show-stopping custom cake shaped like a car, but crushed and crumbling. The message? Not everything shiny lasts. On the day of the wedding, I wore a pearl-colored silk suit, subtle but commanding. I arrived last. The valet's jaw dropped when I stepped out of the limo. Heads turned. My parents were already 2 glasses deep, giggling with distant cousins. Camille stood in a floral silk gown mid-photo op when she saw me. Silence fell. And that's when the real gift arrived, on a velvet tray carried by my assistant. A handwritten note attached, for the bride who always had everything except self-awareness. Camille opened it and found a mock certificate titled, Prepaid Divorce Consultation, valid for 1 year. She gasped. My mother gasped louder. My father turned white, and as their eyes darted from the paper to me, I smiled kindly and said, You said I couldn't afford socks. Turns out, I bought foresight instead. I turned, stepped back into the limo, and left before the shouting started. Let them deal with the fallout. That night, I got dozens of messages. Some called me cruel. Others said I did what every overlooked daughter dreams of. But I didn't care about the opinions. What mattered was that I walked away in silence. And for once, they couldn't laugh. They just stood there, speechless. After the wedding scandal, my phone buzzed non-stop. Some messages were dramatic. How could you ruin her day like that? Others quietly victorious. You did what I never had the courage to. But my favorite was a text from my old high school classmate, Lily, who had once called me the wallpaper girl. She simply wrote, That was legendary. My parents didn't call. They didn't email. They didn't even send a sarcastic group text. Silence. Not because they were offended, but because they were embarrassed. And in our family, embarrassment was the ultimate punishment. For a few weeks, I let it all die down. I didn't speak to them. I didn't show up to Camille's post-wedding brunch. I didn't respond when my mom sent me a forwarded chain message about forgiveness and being the bigger person. I wasn't interested in being big. I was interested in being done. Then, one Sunday afternoon, I got a knock on the door. It was my father. No limo. No Audi. No pride. His voice was low, and for the first time in my life, it was also unsure. We need to talk, he said. He stepped inside awkwardly, scanning my apartment, only to realize it wasn't an apartment anymore. It was the penthouse of a luxury complex. Bright, elegant, glass walls, marble countertops. He didn't ask how I got here, because deep down, he knew. He talked nervously over a cup of tea, like a man who finally understood he was in the presence of someone he had underestimated far too long. Then came the real reason. Camille was getting a divorce. 6 weeks after the wedding, her husband had vanished to Paris with a coworker, taking her money with him. Turns out, the businessman everyone bragged about was all flash and fraud. The house was mortgaged, the accounts were drained, my parents were financially stuck again, and they were looking at me like a solution. We're just hoping, my father said, that you'll help keep the family above water. Camille's devastated. It's not her fault. I stared at him. Let that sentence breathe in the air. It's not her fault. The same phrase I'd never heard once in my entire life, even when I was left behind, insulted, forgotten, and gifted socks on my 30th birthday. And so I did what I had been quietly preparing for. I reached into my desk and handed him a document, a legal transfer of property. It showed that the house they lived in, our childhood home, had been quietly purchased by me through a shell company months ago. They had no idea it had changed hands, and now I was handing them an option. Stay under the new lease agreement, or leave. My father's hands trembled as he read. You bought our house? I nodded. With money from the company I built, after you told me socks were good enough. He tried to protest, but I stopped him gently. You used my inheritance to pay for Camille's second wedding, remember? I just made sure I bought her exit, too. That evening, my mother called in tears. She tried to spin it, tried to pull the guilt strings. She told me we were just trying to do what's right for the daughter who needed us most. I replied, and now I'm doing what's right for the daughter who was needed least. Weeks passed. They eventually moved out of the house and into a modest condo. Camille's Audi was repossessed, and the man who once laughed when I cried on Christmas morning now avoids me at family gatherings. As for me, I donated the socks. I still ride in that limo sometimes, not because I need to, but because it reminds me of how far I've come. Not in money, not in fame, but in self-respect. And every time I pull up to that childhood street, I look at the empty driveway where a dream car once stood. And I smile, because now I own the keys to everything they said I wasn't worthy of. And that is how the shame of the family wrote her own legacy. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.